Welcome to Rigged for Dirt, the podcast recorded as the adventure happens. And boy, do we have an episode for you today.
We are in Moab, Utah. As a matter of fact, we just finished Schaefer Trail, I believe it's called, off of Potash Road.
Right.
We just wound up the backside, up the S's, and we found this amazing overlook that we took some photos, and we will be doing a time lapse on our GoPro, so you'll be able to see kind of what we're seeing out here. It is just amazing and beautiful, and what a trip.
Wow. I mean, it's hard to begin the episode from the end, but but I mean, we almost have to, because the view that we're seeing right now, and you know, like I said in the intro, right? We record this stuff while we're out here doing these things, and man, this is literally the end of the trip before we hit the highway to go home.
Yeah. And speaking of that, I want you guys who are listening to just picture in your head a 12-hour drive starting at 5 o'clock p.m.
Right.
All the way back to Orange County from Moab,
that's
Utah.
going to be a burner. I don't even want to think about it. I don't want to bring the podcast down.
Oh, no, we're not bringing it down. We're just showing the height. 12 hours, and that's how we roll.
This is what we do for you.
That's
we
right.
could have not done this, but we're going to do it.
We could have saved ourselves the hour and a half, 2 hours of recording.
Right. But you know what? I'm really happy that we did, because we're set up on this like ledge.
Dude.
And not even 5 feet in front of us is at least a couple thousand feet drop. And you're gonna see this in the photos and the time lapse, and we have the S curves, the switchbacks of Schaefer Trail right in front of us, and like this is precisely why we wanted to record the episode at the end, because I didn't expect this amazing and spectacular of a place, but it ended up being that way. So
you were kind of looking forward to the trail, right? You knew about it, you just had never been on it.
I knew about it. This trail had been on my list of things to do for the longest time, and I mean years. And I had no idea we were doing this trail this morning, and when I found out, we were originally starting on Potash Road, which connects to this trail, but I had no idea this was going to be the exit.
Right.
And when I found that out, Ali, you can attest, I was like an 8-year-old.
Giddy.
I was giddy.
I was like, dude, chill out.
This was like bucket list. Like, I've been wanting to do Schaefer Road for the longest time.
No, it ended up being just this epic adventure.
And we'll get into that. So we'll leave it at that. Let's say that we're here, we're recording it now, and then we're going to rewind and go back in the way back
flashback
machine. Right. And we're going to start when we, the morning, what was it, Tuesday morning?
Yeah, real quick though, just because you brought it up, we're about over 5,200 feet.
Oh, wow.
Right now. It was like about 290 feet above sea level down there, and we're at 5,000.
Is it really that much of a difference?
Something. Yeah, we climbed quite a bit.
Wow.
Which goes to show why we kind of ended up in some of those little adventures that we were in.
Yeah.
Anyways, but
So let's start the way back machine, and we'll go back to we'll go back to Tuesday morning. I like your way back machine sound, by the way. Good job. Good job. So Tuesday morning, right? We did the same thing. It was a burner. We left Orange County on Monday, drove all the way up, recorded.
Well, if you listened to the last episode,
you know this, and so we'll pick up where we left off, which is Tuesday morning in a hotel, about 30 minutes outside of Moab proper. Right. Big special thanks to KC for setting that up.
Dude,
right?
KC is always
looking out for
supporting us.
Always looking out.
Yeah, always looking out. And we spent quite a bit of time with them too.
Yeah, so that's where we begin. Yeah. So we, after getting in at we went to bed at almost 1 a.m.
Do you wanna paint the picture of the hotel we stayed at?
Nah.
What happens? We
can blow past
What
that.
happens when you book super late for two guys that aren't even supposed to come?
Let's just say that all the good stuff is gone.
Yeah. Well, let's put it this way. If you guys ever want to come to Easter Jeep Safari, I would put the reservation in now, as in like a year ahead, into town. Otherwise, you're driving an hour. That's really
the issue of the thing, is that, I think between the time that it took us to get into town, which is about an hour from this hotel, and the amount of gas that you burn driving an hour each way.
How much gas we actually spent getting to and from town.
Exactly. That savior, you're going to spend that money anyway. Just get a hotel in town.
Well,
it's
I'll tell you
so much better.
The hotel outside of town was about 50 miles?
Yeah.
30, 50 miles, something like that. Once you get into town, from town to basically where you're heading out on trail, you're going to be going another 30 miles. So there's just a lot of driving. So you're better off being in town before you start, offshooting into different parts.
Right. And all of the trailheads are like within 2 or 3 miles of like the town area.
Really close. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really
so
close.
It's to your benefit to just, pro tip number 1 right there.
So,
beginning of the podcast.
Yeah, we got in and we hooked up with our buddy Randy.
Yep.
Over at KC, and he told us about a couple of things that were happening. We were trying to get to an Icon event.
Oh yeah,
where
we were
Brad,
rushing.
Yeah, Brad from Trail Recon was doing a meet and greet, and we got invited out because I run Icons. And so, just so you guys know, there's a lot of industry like stuff that happens here. So you have a lot of companies that will invite their sponsored drivers. Rigs that they give parts to or pro deals to, and they'll invite them out to these different types of runs or events or what have you. So if you hear us talking about like a Warren run or whatnot, that's what's really going on out here at Easter Jeep Safari. You can also sign up through the Red Rock Crawlers website, where there's a membership fee of $50, and then there's a trail fee. So you sign up for the trails you want, then there's like X amount of dollars per trail, and then you get an itinerary. That's the one. And then you'll meet up with people. You'll see numbered signs around town. You meet up with them at a certain number, and everyone takes off together.
Right, which is really cool. They actually have a really good system. You're driving around town, and you just see these giant numbers on the side of the road.
Yeah,
and then,
super clear.
And then Jeeps just start lining up, like, 20, 10, 15, whatever, depending on whatever run it is and the difficulty. They just start lining up. And so...
on their website, there's different levels, by the way.
Right.
So if you're a beginner with like a brand new Sahara, there's going to be a trail for you. If you're a hardcore crawler, I don't even need to tell you because you're already here.
Right.
But yeah, all levels.
Right. Exactly. So I have to say, this was never on my radar of things I would ever do.
Right, Mr. MJ.
Right, exactly. I've just never.
Oh, can we talk about that real fast?
Go ahead.
I mean, there's so much to talk about, so don't worry, guys. This is going to be a pretty packed episode. So if we get off track here and there's no issue. But Frank started doing the Jeep Wave.
Oh,
he straight up started doing Jeep waves. Like we'd pass Jeeps and Frank would be like waving and nodding his. I'm like, dude, you're gonna convert. He's gonna buy himself a Gladiator soon.
Well, that is tempting. I'm not gonna lie. The Gladiator's pretty sick. And if I did, just again, yet another sidetrack. If I did, it would be the short cab.
The short cab. Yeah, we saw one of those.
That thing's pretty rad.
We got some pictures. We'll be uploading pictures eventually.
Oh yeah, we took. So I'll put it this way: I took just shy of 20 gigs of photographs.
I put you to work for one of the sponsors too.
Yeah. So the Jeep Wave thing was funny because it was almost I wouldn't say it came totally natural, but you're riding in Kate and everyone's waving at you, and at some point it's kind of a knee-jerk reaction to just wave back. And
he's being neighborly,
right? And so I don't know, Jeep Wave. Are you born with it, or is that something you learn?
I don't know. I think you buy the Jeep and then it comes with the documents that they give you.
That's true.
At financing.
Right. They're like, I do solemnly swear to wave at other Jeeps as they pass me on the road.
Cross my heart, hope to die, stick a needle in my eye.
Right. That's the official Jeep pledge, guys. Just FYI.
Stupid. So yeah, getting back on track, we got in. We missed the Icon event, which was funny because as we're driving, I'm like, oh yeah, we'll get in at like 2:38, and then we hit a point, and that point was probably state line, where suddenly it's 3:40, and I'm like, how the hell did we just lose an hour? How did our entire plans just get jacked?
I forgot about that.
And I'm like, and I'm trying to...
Yeah, you're right, because
I was so tired from driving. I was just like, how did this happen?
We were driving, and then we got like right around just outside of Nevada, and actually just past Arizona, and we were like, we lost an hour.
I'm like, what just happened? What highway did I miss?
Yeah, did we miss a turn? And we spent like a good 5 minutes going through our apps, like trying to figure out what happened, because we were supposed to get here at like just before 4:00, and it all of a sudden switched to just after 5, and we were like, "What's happening?"
It's called a time zone.
Turns out,
oh my god!
Turns out Waze doesn't.
Turns out Ali doesn't understand what a time zone is.
Yeah, we didn't. We were definitely slow on the uptick.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one. I'm glad you're not like, "Hey, dude." Like time zone.
Yeah.
We kind of realized it together when we were looking at our clocks and realizing our iPhones were saying something different from our watches. So yeah.
It turns out we were both kind of slow on the uptick on that one. And
whatever. So we missed the Icon thing, but then there was this so there's this pizza joint called Zach's.
Right.
And Zach's was doing this this company NLU crawlers, or forget what they were called. Cool little group.
Yeah.
I mean, if you guys look up Jeepers of Instagram on Facebook, which is weird.
Jeeps of Instagram. Jeeps of Instagram.
Jeeps of Instagram.
Yeah.
These guys put together an event. This organization that kind of organized this event put together this event and had a bunch of Jeeps come out that were kind of like low level to high level influencers. So you had like Brad from Trail Recon, you had Adam from Hey, it's that one guy dude thing, bro.
You're doing it on purpose now, yeah. He's going to be so bummed. Adam actually came up to me that night and he goes, hey, did you guys, and by the way, if you guys remember, we talked about Adam in the Anzas and we just like butchered his Instagram name.
It's that one dude with a bunch of underscores in the middle.
Right. That one dude and it's underscores. And of course, and one of them is a number. You can guess which one. And he comes up to me and he goes, hey, did you finally get my name right?
Yeah,
do you get it?
_1. That. I don't know, dude.
I'm sorry, dude.
You got so many words in your name. Mine's just like one word with three of them like just stuck together.
Yeah, I can't talk. My name is pretty long. And I even have an underscore in there too.
You do have an underscore.
So I can't
underscores,
talk.
Man.
Yeah.
Anyways, but Adam was there. We had some like just amazing rigs.
We had 2 Marcos. That was pretty awesome.
Okay, so we're gonna have a whole podcast on the fact that you have a doppelganger who's a massive Jeep dude.
Yeah, Marco's pretty well known. I mean, obviously Brad and Marco.
Amazing chef.
Right,
amazing chef. It's not the first time we've talked about it either.
Right. So you guys know that I've been like, ever since Anza, I've been like Marco's doppelganger. So finally, we were in the same place at the same time, and we both acknowledged that we look way too similar. And we took selfies. It was really funny. His daughter walked up to me and she's like, hey, Dad. And I was like, excuse me?
She's like, I need $20. She goes, I need $20 for pizza.
So long story short, I give her now an allowance and I'm invited to her birthday, which strangely enough is the day after. Yeah, strangely enough is the day after my anniversary. So that's easy to remember.
That's so
it's so really, that was really fun, man. That was a blast. I haven't laughed that hard in a really long time.
There'll be shirts, not the Marco.
Yeah, I'm going to make a shirt now that I'm going to wear for our next off-road event that we're doing. And it's just going to say not the Marco because that was like the thing all night. Oh, man. We have Marco 1 and Marco 2. Funny. We just got to find Polo.
And we took a picture of you guys next to each other and really,
yeah.
I mean, it's funny. Even your noses, like it is weird.
It is kind of weird.
You guys do look alike.
I didn't think we looked that much alike. Like I figured it was just the beard and the fact that we're both brown. But then I saw the pictures and I was like, oh, this is awkward. This is strangely the same person.
That was funny. So we went to that event. The event was cool. Most of everyone stayed at the pizza place, and the parking lot was like, they made it seem like it was in the back of the pizza place, but it was like to the back across the street, like in a sublot. But it was packed.
It was cool.
It was cool.
It was cool. We had some beers. We had some food.
Yep.
Big social hour. And then we ended up getting back pretty late.
We had Taylor drinking from the pitcher.
Yeah, we have Taylor drinking from the pitcher. It was fun. It was just standard shenanigans. You know, like a bunch of dudes that have been driving all day, getting together, having a good time. And so
much fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
I got to meet Brad's wife. We got to meet Marco's kid.
Yep.
She's just such a sweetheart.
She's super nice.
And her boyfriend.
And she has a Jeep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, the whole family's got a Jeep except for one of them.
Except for one, yeah.
We'll talk about that one day when Marco comes on the show. Then we made the hour-long trek back.
Back to the hotel, which, by the way...
Actually, no, we didn't.
We didn't?
No. We went to see the sights.
Oh, my gosh. You're right. I totally forgot about that.
It has just been such a gnarly 3 days. Like I said, we're heading out right after this, and we basically got into town, did that event, and then it's been like nonstop. And I think we've got like 5 hours of sleep between each major chunk of it.
At best. Yeah. We've probably slept 5 hours each night at best. So what happened was we're leaving, right? And we drive past the entrance to go see the arches. And, you know, Ali says to me, he's like, should we? You think it's open? And I was like, well, I mean, I doubt it because it's 11:30 at night.
I'm all screwed. Let's
11
go.
at night. And I go, but we're only going to, there's only one way to find out, right? The gate's going to be closed or it's going to be open. So he's like, screw it, let's find out.
You got to knock, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he makes a U-turn. We go to the intersection, green light, start driving in, and we're just, the gate's open. The first gate's open. Okay, here we go. So we start driving in, total pitch darkness.
Dude, had all the lights on.
Yeah, had all the lights on. We're just cruising through.
That was so nice.
And it was so rad.
So so on the way to the trailhead of where we ended up getting out and kind of hiking out and trying to get these nighttime arch shots. Yep. So it's like the arches. So there's multiple different types of arches. The one that we ended up we're trying to overlook, was called Delicate Arch.
Yeah, yep. It's one of the more famous ones.
Right, but there's multiple arches out there. They're just beautiful. You've probably seen a lot of pictures of like the sun coming through. It's a pretty famous photo. A lot of people come in the mornings, to your point.
Right.
You were talking about that.
They go catch the sunrise. Yeah, yep. Exactly.
And so it's a sight to see. So definitely do the arches. I'm a little bummed we didn't do the Colorado River thing, but whatever.
Yeah. So
on the way to the arch, me and Frank started talking. I'm like, I fucking hate snakes. Like that's my thing. Actually, right now there's like this shelf behind us.
Yeah.
And it's got this perfect crack where this is where snakes live. Like the crocodile hunter, God rest his soul, would be like elbows deep in there pulling out.
I'm gonna pull a black mamba.
Some viper out of there, and it's like right behind me. So I'm just waiting for something. That was my
really horrendous Australian accent.
Yeah, that was terrible. But like something's like just gonna bite me right now any minute. But whatever.
Yeah. So
I'm like talking about snakes, and Frank goes,
I don't think there's any major predators in Utah.
Oh, really? That's awesome. Because then you look around and you're like, yeah, it's all just kind of dirt.
It's all kind of dirt,
looks
kind of
like
rocky,
Mars.
And there's the occasional cow strolling by.
Yeah.
And I said, I really don't think that Utah has. And by the way, keep in mind, there's no service. Right, we're already out like in the sticks, and there's no service, so we're just having a casual conversation.
Usually we Google it,
right? And so we're like, I'm thinking about it though. I'm thinking to myself, and I think of bear country. I think of
Wyoming,
Montana, exactly, or even the mountains of California, right? I'm like, okay, there's bears up here.
Period.
Yeah, the mountains, right?
And Utah's got mountains, but not like out here.
Not like what you'd expect.
It's like red rock. You just think stone, like there's just a lot of rock out here.
Just a bunch of rocks.
It's not a bear place.
Just rocks everywhere.
So Frank's like, no.
Yeah, and I was like, no. And then you think mountain lions? Nah, not likely. No. And then my logic is, when there's predators, there has to be prey. And I'm like, well, what the heck is a cougar gonna hunt out here other than like the occasional cow?
Me.
Like, yeah. And so I go, I doubt it, dude. I think we're fine. Cougars so we're driving in the dark, and we pretty much both kind of between our ourselves and our ignorance decide that there's no way there's any predators out here. There's no bears. There's nothing that can kill us anyway, right? Other than a snake. And so we're just watching for snakes. I just say, hey, you see a nope rope, you stop and you call it out. That's
all we were looking for.
That's all we were looking for.
As we're walking, so we find
because it was a warm night, and so we're like, if they're going to be out, it's probably going to be right. It's probably going to be it.
So we drove around. We found the far trail.
Right. The trailhead, and we found a cool off-road trail. There's a 4x4 trail.
When did we do that? Before or after?
Before.
Oh, we did it before.
Because we were hoping it would get us closer to the arches.
Yeah, that's right. So we're like, oh, we're finally off-roading.
Yep.
And I'm not the type to go open up somebody's gate like that. I just feel like that's a line you don't cross. So
absolutely
we got down to the end of this road. There was a gate. Didn't even bother. Turned around, went back to the parking lot.
Yep.
We got out. We kitted up, got some water, walkies, and we started walking. I had no idea how far we were going to end up walking.
Right.
Oh, look, there's a little lizard.
There's a little lizard.
Where's his little snake
That's
buddy?
our first little wildlife spotting.
Little reptile. Fuck. So mind you, as we're walking down this path, there are like these perfect like overhangs.
Right.
For an ambush, but hey, there's no predators out here, so I was just looking at these things going in relief. I'm like, oh, cool. Even though this is a perfect spot to get ambushed by like a mountain lion, since there are none, it's just really nice to look at and walking.
Right. So we're just hiking, doing this walk around this trailhead to get a view of the arches, and we do it. Right. We get up there, we get some night shots, we do the whole shebang, and Ollie is occasionally flashing the flashlight off in the distance, like down the trails,
behind us, just looking.
Eyes. He's so paranoid. It was actually kind of funny. And so we do our thing. We get our pictures. We check it out at night, and then we start hoofing it back. And it's not far, but probably like a half mile.
It was easier coming back. There was a lot.
So there's
climbing. There's these rock steps that cut into the path.
Yeah,
and which is really helpful. But there's a lot of them, and then you finally get up there, and the altitude actually really does come to play.
So we're coming around the bend, coming back to the Jeep where the fencing starts, and you're getting in the parking lot. And I notice for the first time that there's bear-proof trash cans. And I go right next to the bathrooms.
Those are for the raccoons.
Yeah. I go, dude, why are there bear-proof trash cans? And he's like, whoa, no, there can't be. There's no bears. And I go, you're right. It's probably for the raccoons or possums or whatever.
And then in my head, I'm like, this ain't a raccoon place.
Yeah.
There's no raccoons out here.
It's probably for the critters, I said. And he goes, okay. So we go up there and we should go look at it. So we go look at it. And he goes, oh, no, it's just for the recycling. And then he goes, no, these are open. These are open trash cans. So these can't because there was like another set.
We thought it was just like, we thought the open trash cans were like the trash cans.
Nope. Turns out it's just for plastics other stuff. And then, but the actual waste trash cans are bear-proof. And so we're like, that's bizarre.
That's weird.
Maybe the national park just had extras and they shipped them here.
But Google said.
So then we're leaving the park and we just like get on our merry way. We're driving our hour trek back to the hotel and I get service again. And I go, you know what? Let me Google this.
Oh, man.
And I Google it and it says, turns out there are bears in Utah.
Turns out Frank and Ali almost got eaten by wildlife.
There's brown bears in Utah. No grizzlies, not since about 70 years ago when the last grizzlies were seen here. But there are brown bears.
Fun fact.
Yeah, fun fact. No grizzlies. There used to be, though. And there are cougars, mountain lions. Those are, and it actually said they were quite common out here. So check number 2.
I'm just kind of looking behind me going, we are yet again in another ambush position.
Right, making sure we're not being stalked because we literally have our backs. We have nowhere to go. We have to go backwards. Like in front of us is a 4,000 foot drop. So, then we go, well, you know what? Let's see what else is out here. I go, I wonder if coyotes are out here because I remember I said I thought I heard a coyote, and it ended up being your bag making weird noises.
Right.
But I thought I heard a coyote, and so he's like, no, there's no coyotes. So I Google that. Turns out,
land of the many coyotes.
According to the Wildlife Fish and Game website, this is coyote country, land of coyotes. I had no idea they were that prevalent, but apparently they are super prevalent. So it turns out we're fucking dumb. We had no idea how many of these animals lived out here.
Yeah, so
truth be told, we haven't seen a single one, but
knock on wood, there is yet time left in this barren patch of land that we decided to camp on.
Oh, you can't see this, but Ollie keeps looking around, which is really cracking me up.
Somebody's got to be ready, okay?
It's really cracking me up. So yeah, that was night number 1. We get back, get our 4.5, 5 hours of sleep. We get up early because we have a commitment with Warren. Right, we're going to do their event.
Yeah, so how this, I think we talked about it on the way up, right? About how this kind of wasn't going to happen, then it did happen.
Right.
But in case you didn't catch that episode, basically we were game on, and then it was game off, and so we were already planning out our week to do whatever, and it turned out that Warren wanted us to come out, wanted my rig out for their trail run, and then 2, one of my other sponsors, Yukon Gear and Supply, said that, hey, we'll cover your gas if you want to come up. And then 3, KC informed us, oh, you guys weren't sleeping on our floor. We actually got you rooms. And it's like, oh man, like everyone made it to where we couldn't really say no. And for me, it was like one of those, initially it was one of those obligations that turned into something that like I would actually pay to go to.
Right, right.
But it was like one of those obligations where I'm like, the sponsors want me to come and they gave me a bunch of parts and are expecting me to be here, but the reality is I just can't, swing it. And no, it ended up working out really well.
Yeah, I mean, once they said there was a hotel and fuel was covered, at that point, it's a no-brainer. Yeah, right.
You were like, all right, dude, the universe is telling us it's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's what I said. Like literally 4 days earlier, before we knew any of this was happening, or even set up for us. I said, you know what, dude? I mean, the time off isn't working out. The money's not working out. Yep. I go, maybe the universe is just conspiring, is just telling us something and just saying, hey, you know what? Not worth it. And then all of a sudden, these things, the blocks kind of start falling into place, and boom, here we are.
So we got everything in place, and we came out, and one of those things is Warren had a trail run, and so what that means is these sponsored runs are where the industry partner will reach out to the drivers, like I said earlier, and invite them out. So we got invited out to the Warren Trail Run, and basically we all met up at the right actually behind Zach's where we were the night before.
Right.
And we woke up early. We had to be there at 8:30, so we got some coffee. There was actually a Starbucks in town.
Yeah.
But I highly recommend going local.
Yeah, you know what?
Some amazing spots.
Yeah, super
like the
awesome.
Moab Garage.
Yeah,
oh my god,
super plugged for Moab Garage.
Yeah.
Those guys are awesome.
Lunch, breakfast, whatever. Like bomb burritos, bomb tacos. Like
so good.
I think everything on that menu is amazing.
It was so good. The tacos that we had were stupid. We'll come back to that.
Yeah. So we got out, met with the group, and immediately it was my first kind of like wake up call.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, Easter Jeep Safari, though it is for all levels, and it is. And after this week, I understand that it truly is. But getting there, I'm like, oh man, these are crawlers. These are guys that are just here to go up really hard things.
Yeah.
And what am I doing here?
Yeah, most of these rigs are trailered in. They're just built. They're what you would expect a Jeep person, right? When
Correct.
you hear someone like say Jeepers,
yeah.
this is what they're talking about.
Jeepers.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, I decided to bring my tent. I got the green light from Free Spirit where they said, you know what, if you don't want to bring the tent, that's fine. We're okay. We understand. And I'm like, wow, that's really understanding. And, it turns out that there's a reason, because really, if you come out here, I would also recommend leave your tent.
I would.
It's totally, you'll find trails, but you will have so much more fun and leave so many variables out of it, to where you're better off just leaving your that one variable at home,
But we did have this conversation on the way up, and we said, look, if you're gonna do this, and look, let's face it, when you drive Kate and we do our own, separate adventures and go off, you're gonna have the tent. You're gonna be fully equipped, and you're gonna come across obstacles, and you're gonna need to know how the Jeep handles and
how to get over them.
Yeah,
right?
and how to get over them, and what to expect and what you can and can't do. And the only way you're gonna do that is if you bring the tent and you bring the Jeep equipped, just like you would take it on any other trip.
But it comes down to 3 letters.
What's that?
DIQ.
Yep, it does.
Dick for shirt.
What? Wait, what? You went told.
It is driver IQ.
Right.
Yep.
That's right.
Dick for short.
Yeah.
Just saying. What? DIQ. You tell me how you pronounce that. So anyways, so driver IQ, and the only way you get driver IQ truly is you get steady for it. Sure. Absolutely. But the reality is you need seat time.
You do. You got to get behind the wheel and you got to give it a try. And so, luckily the Warren run was pretty easy. Had we stuck to the trail that was designated. And so we're like you said, right, we met everybody. People, and we'll get to that, people were kind of like eyeballing you, giving you sideways eyes.
Dude, that wasn't the first time. It wouldn't be the last.
Yeah.
And I got, and I'm not even saying that like a bragging kind of way. It's like more of like a what the fuck are you doing here kind of way.
Yeah. The good thing is, and we're saying this, but not like they weren't being cool. Everyone was super nice.
Yep. But
they were just surprised.
You could tell that some of the more seasoned guys and the guys who've been around for longer, who maybe don't even have experience with tents but just understand physics, we're like, what are you, like you could see it in their eyes. What are you doing here? But I'm interested to see how this turns out. That was kind of like, that was the vibe. I don't know what you're doing here, but I am interested to see how this plays out.
Yeah, it was, I mean, I can imagine like the looks on their faces was essentially saying like they were standing on a beach and they just saw a fish come out of the water and grow legs. And they were just like, they weren't mad. They were just baffled.
They were just like, whoa, that just happened.
So Kate rolls up and they were like, fish?
I am at least like 2 feet taller.
Yeah.
I think than anybody there. Even the rigs with 40s and like long travel and like raised, lifted, whatever, like I was taller
Kate
than
definitely has a super high clearance, right? And so, it's a high vehicle. And so, but yeah, that was kind of the look on their faces. They were just like, what? So they weren't mad. They were just like kind of surprised and kind of perplexed because, you've got this fish, Kate, in water, Moab, and then all of a sudden it's an overlander and you're like, whoa. So that was the kind of our introduction.
I like to think of her as a tiger.
Yeah, tiger.
So we get on the run. We do a little driver's meeting. Great crew, great staff. You could tell it's got a real familial vibe. Like feels like Warren feels like a family.
Yeah, they really do.
All the crew, like everyone seemed like they almost seemed like they were all related, right?
Right. It was super nice.
Yeah, and not in a backwoodsy kind of way, just like in a very like awesome, like they all love hanging out together kind of way. So we do the driver's meeting and we all take off and we go to the little mini airport here in Moab. It was like helicopters and small planes.
Yeah, there's a little local, little regional airport. And so that was kind of where we started the dirt. So we kind of did, the customary drive to the trailhead, pull off, everyone kind of airs down, does all that business.
Yep.
And then we, start going, right? We kind of take off, and right away, like within minutes, the group kind of breaks up into sections.
Well, there was some there's a lot of dirt trails leading up to these different trailheads.
Right. Well, yeah, because you're on this dirt road, and there's there's offshoots, right? Like you can go this way to go to this trail, go this way to go to that trail, and so it's like what you would expect, totally. Right? And so somehow we kind of got separated. Like our group that we were with got separated from the main group. I think what ended up happening was there was a couple of U-turns because there was a couple of missed turns, and in the process of kind of making those U-turns, keep in mind, folks, this is the part that's kind of nutty, and the part that kind of makes me surprised that this doesn't happen more often is the fact that when you say you're in a group with a bunch of Jeeps, everyone is in a group with a bunch of Jeeps.
Right. So
you have no idea if that's your group or somebody else's group.
Unless you memorize the field or something. Yeah.
Exactly. Like you just see a bunch. You can't. It's impossible to memorize every Jeep that you're rolling with because there's 40 of them.
Yep.
And so you're making a U-turn and you catch up to a group of 10 and you're like, this is our group. So you just start tagging along, and it's not until you realize they're doing this gnarly gatekeeper that you're like, oh yeah, that's not our group.
Yeah, I found out what gatekeepers are. I didn't even know what gatekeepers were before.
That's awesome.
I now know what they are, and I've gone through a few of them, and so they're not nice.
So yeah, so we do this, right? We're kind of going and meandering through the trail, and we come to this section where our group kind of looks at it and goes, yeah, that doesn't look right. It's tough, but at the same time, like most of these people are very experienced, and this kind of stuff is what they're out here to do. So of course, we say, okay, well, we got to go through it, right? Like, our destination is on the other side. So here we had no idea that the trail.
The blind leading the blind.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. So we start going up. Ollie's already having kind of his first kind of white knuckle moment and kind of contemplating his plan of attack.
My purpose in life.
Right. Right. And so we get there. I jump out. I'm going to shoot video and shoot a bunch of pictures of him and Kate kind of conquering this.
Appreciate that, by the way. You were freaking awesome. You were on point this whole week. And
it was a good week. Yeah.
It's weird because I do a lot of photography, and it's weird to be not the photographer.
Yeah. I think we both do, right? So it's weird to get photographed.
I mean, it's stupid. I can't even help myself. I end up with my phone in my hand trying to take a picture, and it's like, you know what? You need to drive.
Right.
You're on trail, just drive.
Focus,
and just I let you do it.
Take it in.
And the pictures that you take, dude, are freaking amazing. It's not that I don't think that your photography is great. It's just I can't give that piece up.
Right. It's fun, right? It's fun for us. Yeah.
But once I did, I ended up being able to just focus on what I wanted to do, and
focus on getting the driver IQ, right? And so yeah, and you know what too? So we get to this thing, and this thing is like a pretty steep climb. It's got a 90-degree turn.
We weren't even supposed to be there.
I know, and
I'm glad we did it though.
Yeah, so it's got the one quick step that gets up, which is kind of steep, and then it does a quick 90 degrees.
Dude, the switchback on that trail, I was like,
it was tight.
What is that doing here?
You almost needed a 3-point turn just to kind of get lined up for the next part, and then you have a series of kind of like ups. Right, like step ups.
Yep.
And so luckily I couldn't spot him. I didn't even think I should spot him on that one because I don't know Kate well enough to know how she's going to react to these kind of situations and off cambers. So luckily Dwayne stepped up.
So there was a gentleman by the name of Dwayne with, I believe it was his grandson, in a white JK behind me. And God bless him.
He's like, I'll spot you, and dude, like a champ, he spotted him, walked him through it. And honestly, there was only one moment where on the second section after that 90-degree turn where I was like, bad idea.
I bounced.
You bounced. Yeah, he came up to it. Did the Jeep
I did
bounce.
that bounce. So there's this bounce, right? And you watch it on all these videos, and usually it's the precursor to the Jeep falling over.
So Jeep rolling back, rolling on its back.
It always happens when there's like this big, like a step, massive step, and Jeeps generally, they'll come up to it, they'll roll their front tires up on top of it, and then what ends up happening next is they kind of throttle through and they bounce a little bit and then catch and then move on. Well, usually when you see the fails, it's like they bounce, the front tire slips, and they just start skipping to the right. And I started skipping to the freaking right.
Yep, and the front end started going higher and higher with every bounce. Oh, there's this rad eagle flying right in front of us in this valley. It is so awesome.
I had one of those chase my drone earlier.
It's like it's not even 50 yards from us. It's incredible.
Dude, it's just so beautiful out here.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, oh my gosh, it's gonna happen here. We're done. We're like literally an hour into our first day.
First run in, first obstacle, and Ollie.
We're gonna die.
Flip Kate.
You know what? He backed up. Dwayne kind of said, "Hey, easy." He backed it up. Waved him off, and then lined him up again. explained to him how to come up it, and he did. Kate just went up, right up.
Guys, I mean, it's funny right now. I was thinking as you're talking about it, I'm thinking back to it. I'm going, that guy should not have been behind the wheel.
Yeah.
That Ali should not have done that.
And to be fair, like, I mean, and I'm going to explain this not as a way to like criticize, but as a way to kind of add context to, like, this was probably the most challenging trails that you've ever done.
Ever. No, it absolutely 100% was.
And not to mention that you were still kind of figuring out how Kate drove off-road and managing, being in low gears on obstacles and throttle control in a manual. Right, and so with a supercharger, right? So there was a lot of firsts that were being addressed, and a lot of experience that needed to be found on these trails on this trip.
Yep.
And I mean, to be honest, dude, and I told you this on the trail, the ollie that came in at that moment that completed that first obstacle, right, versus the ollie that is sitting here right now as a driver. Completely different.
Like, again,
the confidence level has increased. The driver IQ has gone through the roof. Like,
I'm full of.
There were.
I can't make that joke. You're gonna have to edit this out. But I am full of dick now.
Oh God.
So.
Yeah, that's getting edited out. So if you hear me talking right now, it's because I just cut what he said. And then there's gonna be a noticeable break in the audio that you just heard. So, anyways,
DM me if you want to hear that joke.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Trust me, at this point we've hyped it up too much. It won't be worth it.
No.
So anyways, like, props to you, man. I'm really proud of you as a friend.
I appreciate it.
It was amazing to watch. It's and we're gonna get into more of that. But if you would have shown me the last obstacle that you did and this first one, and you would have shown me that last one at the moment and said, you think you can do this? I would have said, F no, absolutely not happening. We're done. Pack it in. Let's go back to town.
It was a super steep learning curve. So basically, this was like my first major, what you would call a gatekeeper. It wasn't even a trail that Warren was planning on sending us on. We just got separated, and as a result, we ended up doing this. Got lucky. There was a spotter. I would never recommend trying to do something like this without somebody who actually knows what they're doing. And you can go for it. I mean, maybe you're that good, whatever. I don't care. I'm not. I wasn't, and I'm still not. But I'm way better now than I was before. And that's kind of like what seems to be the glory of Easter Jeep Safari.
Right.
No pun intended, but it's like, this is the place where if you were ever thinking about wanting to crawl, or you already kind of enjoy it wherever you're at, like, come here, you'll become better. You'll be like exposed to some amazing talent and experience. And I think that's where the major value is. So to your point, came in, did that first obstacle. It was scary. My knuckles were white. My back was sweating.
Yeah. I felt like a coach too, that this whole trip, like, it was a constant, like, you got this, man. You got it. Right. All you got to do is learn. You just got to take it easy, go slow, nice and easy, keep the throttle smooth, no, crazy moves, no bursts, right? Same thing with the brakes on downhills. Don't smash it, just nice and easy. Let the gears do the work. And it felt like a coach almost the entire time.
Sure.
And it was cool because it was like, I was also at the same time watching the magic happen before my eyes. It was like, he's getting it. He's learning. This stuff is awesome.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so luckily that was the only real obstacle on that run. The rest of it was pretty scenic and pretty enjoyable.
No, for sure.
It was just kind of rolling hills and going through crazy Utah,
Well, they were going to end on sand dunes.
Right.
So basically after that obstacle, it was just, I mean, there was some like nice little drop-offs and like ledges and stuff. So like
easy stuff, yeah.
The trail was gorgeous.
It was beautiful, yeah.
It was a great trail. But upon finishing that trail, linking up with the group and then heading in, we ended up at the head of the dunes out in Moab, and these dunes are pretty famous. You see a lot of footage from these dunes.
Yeah.
They're fun to play on. A lot of side-by-sides go out there, and Warren was taking the Jeeps to learn how to go from sand to slick rock,
right?
Just how to navigate the dunes.
And if you get stuck, obviously using the Warren winch.
I think that's why they took people to
I think so too. I think they wanted you to get stuck.
They wanted you to get stuck so they could winch you out. And yeah, I mean,
and they fed us, right?
They
had
fed us.
Awesome catered lunch waiting for us.
They fed us and they taught us.
They had a winch class.
So we ended up not getting to the dunes because
we were out of time because of our detour.
Well, we wanted to do the clinic too.
Right.
So we did the clinic, and a gentleman by the name of Andy.
Yep.
Super knowledgeable. Has, I guess, been working with Warren for a very long time.
Right.
And he basically ran through the entire process of when you buy your winch, how to buy, why you need a certain size, like what the
how to select the right winch for you.
So he basically said it's like you take your curb weight of your vehicle,
your gross vehicle weight, not your curb weight.
Okay, your gross vehicle, not the curb. Okay,
right,
not the curb weight, the gross vehicle weight. You multiply it by 2.
1.5.
Is it?
Man, were you listening?
Okay. All right, let's back up. So he basically told us you take your gross weight.
Yep. Gross vehicle weight.
Gross vehicle weight. You multiply it by 1.5.
1.5.
And then that's the base minimum that you'd want your winch to be able to be capable of pulling.
Right. So, for example, if your vehicle comes in, if the math comes in at like 8,500 or 9,000, then you get a 10,000. Right. He goes, at that point, it's pretty much pointless to go to like a 12 or 14. You don't need it. Just go to the next larger size from what you got. Right. So, if you get a 10,000 and they make a 10,000, then get a 10,000. Right. It's pretty straightforward. He said, don't overthink it. There's a lot of ways to increase the power of the winch. Right. Which we'll get into. Yep. But so that's not what's important, is that you just pick the right one, and that's how you do it.
And he says, like, there's no pride in doing something wrong. Right. So you got a guy who's like, I got the 12,000 synthetic platinum winch just because it's the bigger number. And the reality is it's not what you need.
It's not going to do anything for you.
Yep. So, the companies won't even want to give them to you because they wouldn't want to support a vehicle incorrectly.
Right. And so then his next point was, because he said yep, that's the number one most common question is, how do I choose the proper winch for my vehicle? That's how. The second most common question was synthetic.
Yep. Or synthetic or cable.
Or cable. Yep. Yeah. So what did he say? He said there's
pros and cons to both.
There's pros and cons to both, but at the end of the day, they both accomplish the same thing.
Yep. And you have to be cautious of using both. So
they both have their particular things that you need to be careful of.
Yep. They both will whip back on you. Steel tends to whip up. He said synthetic will whip just the same, but it tends to whip down.
It tends to fall. It does tend to fall, but it's not. You shouldn't count on that.
Yep, and it can still seriously hurt you. So there's like all these like kind of preconceived notions amongst the consumer base, but when you hear it from the horse's mouth, so to say, it goes a lot further.
So what was really cool to me, because I'm very new to this personally. What was really cool to me was to hear him kind of describe the testing that goes behind all of these things, the testing that goes between their particular line, their synthetic line, and so essentially he went over some cleaning tips, some maintenance tips to make sure that your synthetic line is up to snuff when you need to use it. And I'll go over it like super quick, just because you should really kind of get this from the horse's mouth. But essentially what he said was, the first thing that you should do is pre-tension the line. Yeah.
So when you initially spool up your cable or your synthetic rope on a cable, you want it to have 5 loops around the drum, and then once you get those 5 on, it takes a lot of the tension off of the anchor on the drum side.
That's the minimum for pulling is 5.
Well, 5. Like when you tension or whatever, yep, absolutely. Because if you spool it all out, then you're putting all the weight on the anchor, and then the anchor could potentially fail, and that's a catastrophic failure. So 5 loops on the steel. So when you tension it, 5 loops on, and then so the manual says it best, and I would go on their website and just research it, but my very rough knowledge is you set it to a solid anchor point, something that will not pull out of the ground and either whip back at you, something that could be capable of holding up to 1,000 pounds is essentially what he said.
That's the kind of weight you want to do this under, is about 1,000 pounds to pre-tension the cable. And you want to do this because they come spooled from the factory.
They potentially could, or they come with the rope in a bag.
Yeah, but they're not tensioned. So even if they come pre-spooled already, you still have to do this.
You have to unwind the entire winch, rope, cable, whatever it is that you're using, and then whether it's steel at 5 loops or if it's synthetic at all, basically one full row of loops across the drum. You're gonna have to start with there, anchor it off to a solid point with proper anchoring techniques, using a tree strap or whatever it is that you're using or anchoring to, and then from there you put some tension on the rope with your e-brake engaged. You put tension on the rope, light e-brake, just so that it's taut, and then you start bringing it in, and it's a 2-person gig really. So the first person's behind the wheel, of course. Second person's controlling the remote,
and also kind of telling the driver to turn the wheel left or right so that it spools right. So it kind of starts going across the spool.
So essentially, you want nice even lines and nice grouping on the loops, and just kind of spool it all in. And then at the very end, he kind of pointed out, like, look, there's this really cool strap. It's not just so we can get our logo on there. It is so you hold the hook by the strap, that as you're tensioning in the cable, you don't want to hold it from the hook.
Right.
You want to hold it from that little strap that says Warn, and then just kind of bring it in. So what you'll do with like the traditional hook is you'll hook it with the, and this is a good habit to be in, you'll hook it with the clasp up.
Right.
Facing up to the sky.
And why is that?
I believe he said because there's, and from what I've understood from Factor 55, which I use their system, but they said the same thing on their Ultra hook because it has a little lever clasp on it, is basically if it's pointing down, the opportunity for it to bind and then fail on that clasp is a lot higher than if it's pointing up, because as it's pointed up, it will naturally kind of settle to where even if even if the tension gives out and it kind of droops, it'll still have the full meat of the hook on it, versus if it droops with the clasp, it could get caught on that clasp, and then all that weight, once you start engaging the tension again, will break that clasp piece.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
because he also mentioned one other point to that, which was you want to have the clasp downward, so the hook basically coming over the top, you don't want to have the hook going over the top. You don't want to have the hook over the top and the clasp facing down, because what happens is if it does fail, the hook tends to fly up, like it catapults up when that happens. And so if you're pulling someone, obviously you don't want that thing flying up in the air, versus if the clasp is facing up, so the hook is also facing up,
even if it fails, it's still going to hook on.
It launches down to the ground.
I think again it comes to that clasp failure point.
Right.
So I guess Justin from Factor never went into like the points of it, like the way it could fail, but that makes total sense.
Yeah, that's what they were saying at the Warn thing. So anyways, it was a really good class. I mean, we could probably spend an hour going over the class because they did. So, but I mean, basically, like, I highly recommend that
I would
you do
say
it.
snatch blocks would be the only other point I would mention. Which
snatch blocks are cool.
So when they say, you don't need 12,000, 14,000 pound winch just to get a greater pulling weight, it's because even with a 10,000, if you use a snatch block, which is essentially a pulley anchored to the point of where you want to pull,
right?
You'll take your rope, you'll loop it through the pulley and bring it back to your vehicle and anchor it on a proper anchor point. It'll double your pulling force.
The pulling
so
force,
it's like
right?
20,000, and then it goes up from there. He said you could run these pulleys in a series if you had enough anchor points. So
right. So essentially, what's happening is you just kind of zigzag, right? You'll have a Z kind of pulleys. So as long as you can keep doing that, as long as you have enough line and enough pulleys, you can keep doing that and keep multiplying it. You can keep doubling.
Yep.
Your force. You also reduce the speed greatly though, so you double the time as well. Yep. So you double the force, but you also double the time. But if someone is super stuck, like they're bogged down in a deep mud pit or something, and they're just down to the frame rails, and 10,000 pounds ain't doing it, you can add the pulley and the snatch block, and you now effectively have 20,000 pounds. Right. If that doesn't work, then you can add another snatch block, and now you have 40,000 pounds. So,
yeah, and with everything that we're saying here and talking, we are not experts whatsoever. No. So this is secondhand knowledge from a first-time clinic.
Yeah, the goal here is to wet your beak and to get you interested in going out and getting an expert or
do a
taking
fact
a
check.
class.
Yeah, fact check us because maybe we're wrong on some exact figure of fact here,
sure,
or terminology. So always, go learn on your own. We kind of like maybe gave you the outline.
It was super useful for us. Like I found it to be super useful. I asked him if they had any classes in Southern California, and he said that he's pretty much the guy that does it. So I'll reach out to him and see if either he's ever in Southern California.
For like a Rigs and Coffee event?
Yeah, if he can do the OC Rigs and Coffee and kind of come out and do this information is critical. Like, it's one of those things that, I mean, stuff can go bad so fast.
I mean, I foresee doing this maybe in select stores, but for 511, we've got stores in like Colorado, Utah, and some like in the Inland Empire. So these are like areas that are accessible to places where people go off road. Yep. It's like, it makes total sense to have like, Warren come out and do a little clinic for people. Like, I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, so that was way cool. So we finished up that class, kind of, had our lunch, did the class, had a great time with those people, and so huge props to them. They
catered the lunch, by the way.
Yeah, the lunch was good.
Thank you very much, Warren.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Like pulled pork, like it was delicious.
Yeah.
And then
we're like, oh, we gotta go.
We gotta go.
Like, oh, why do you gotta go?
We got a jet
because we got another sponsored run.
We got another run we gotta do. And same thing, right? We were running out of time. We were kind of teetering on whether or not we were gonna make it on time.
Right. Yep.
And we just busted a move, and we got there. And same thing. We roll into the parking lot, and
dude, this
these
was
rigs,
even rougher.
Yeah, these rigs were even gnarlier than the
Dudes
last.
on
group.
like 42s with like Hemi and like just full cage, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing?
I mean, they had
now?
tires that were as tall as me, and I was like, oh, this is gonna get nutty.
Yeah, I mean,
and whose run was it? Because we should give them.
So my buddy Neil, he's one of the upper management execs over at Yukon Gear and Axle. We started talking a few weeks ago. Like I said, Yukon's the reason why it tipped us over to be like, you know what, we should go and we should do this.
Totally.
So he said, we'll take care of you. Come on out, but I want you to do this run, and I want you to take photos. And I'm like,
right,
sure. Thank God you were there, because I don't know how I'm supposed to do what I did and take photos.
Yeah,
it was
I took
enough
a ton
just
of
to
photos,
like. It was enough to make sure I didn't lose my ass on this.
Yeah, for sure.
Run. So this, not that Warren served a different purpose. Like, the dunes were a big part of their run. We just never got to the dunes, but we did have a really great epic gatekeeper obstacle that we navigated. But the Yukon one was, so Neil hooked up with the head of Sexton Racing.
Right. Dusty Sexton.
Dusty Sexton. Thank you. I was almost spacing on it. Dusty was amazing. I mean,
that dude.
Here's a guy that runs an entire race program, but went out of his way to set this amazing run up with Yukon, and he spotted for everybody that needed it.
Everybody that needed it, he spotted. And this dude is like legit. One of the best spotters I've ever seen. Cool, calm, collective, and not only that, but he knew every line like the back of his hand. He could size up the rig and say, this is the line that you need to take.
Separate lines for different people.
Totally.
Yep.
And it was like so brilliant. I was like watching a master at work. I was impressed.
Yep. Yeah, me too. And
his crew, the guys that he brought.
Dude, there's that guy. He had that. Man, it wasn't a Jeep. It was a Dodge Power Wagon, but it was an old school Power Wagon.
So rad.
So badass.
You'll see the pictures. We'll post pictures.
Oh, dude, your photos came out bomb. Yeah, like so badass. And at one point he came up to me and he goes, "Props, bro." And I hadn't seen his rig, and then later I saw his rig. I'm like, oh shit, that guy gave me props. Cool.
Yeah, right.
Well, I feel like I really accomplished something. Yeah, like
a little starstruck moment there.
Yeah, I was like, damn, that guy in that rig was like, proud of my thing. So that was really cool.
So we talked to these guys. They give a driver's meeting. Ollie and I are both kind of looking at each other, going, I don't know, bro. They told us there was going to be some serious kind of gatekeepers on this one, and they said, don't worry, we're going to have a vehicle set up at the top. I'm going to tell you guys where to stop, and then I'm going to go to the top as well. Yep. We'll get set up there. We'll have one winch vehicle, and we'll just start hooking people up and pulling them up if we have to. He's like, not a problem. We talked to him separately because, like Ollie, like I said, he's coming into this brand new, and you were concerned.
I'm not too proud to say, like, I don't want to hold up their group.
Yeah, you didn't want to be a burden, right?
I don't want to be a burden.
Saying. Yeah, you were like, I don't want to be the guy that slows the group down because he can't get through anything. So, because this stuff's all way more complicated than Kate's maybe built for, right?
Yep.
And like they were
like, dude, you're fine.
You're fine. We'll figure it out.
Actually, what he told me was, listen, we're gonna get you up that first obstacle,
right?
And if you feel like this is it for you, we're gonna send you on your way home,
right?
And it's funny because that whole line, like, we'll get you up the first obstacle, and then we'll send you on your way home. It's like, I don't want to be sent on my way home.
Right.
And so it almost like drove me a little bit harder.
It was almost like a challenge, right?
Yeah, to be like on it. It's like, all right, challenge accepted. Let's do this. Rocklander time,
Right.
And
right.
Again, I don't think if it hadn't been for the Warren run that morning, I might have been like 10 times more apprehensive.
Right.
And I had plenty of pucker moments on this Yukon trail, and there's multiple times where I'm just like, maybe it's time to leave, or maybe it's time to be done.
Oh yeah, I thought for sure when we were in Bartlett Wash, going into the pickle, and we're gonna get to that. I thought for sure you were gonna quit right there.
I mean, it was definitely one of those moments where you're like, I could either bitch and complain and like, you know, really be a burden and have to turn around and make people like make room for me, or I could just shut up, like embrace this whole experience and like drain it for every little ounce of joy and experience that I can get out of it.
Right.
And
right.
That's the route I chose.
And so
I just gave into it. It was awesome.
Yeah. So we, you know, same thing. We take off, we go to our spot, you know, we air down, we start doing this trail, which is already just a gorgeous trail. There was a few already gnarly descents on this trail, right? And like,
like steps that I had never done before.
Steps that Ollie's never done before. Even some of the steps, even going up, they're just basically steep hills.
I'm like, where's the spotter?
Right. And even then though, like the throttle control was kind of a problem, and finding the right gear was kind of a problem.
I didn't quite understand, like, you know, I didn't have to necessarily be in first. I could go off in second.
Exactly.
Even if I'm in gear and they say just let the gear do the work, you still have to feather the throttle in order to keep, like, you know, yourself in the right
keep
power
it smooth,
band.
keep it in the power band. Yeah. And so, you know,
These
do all
still
this.
Unknowns.
And so, you know, I was getting worried because, you know, I saw Ollie kind of just struggling, and I was just trying to kind of coach him through it. And I was like, I don't know, man. Like, you really kind of have to have good throttle control for some of these gatekeepers, because that's kind of critical to keeping your momentum. And so we get to the first gatekeeper, and we're looking at it. And this thing, he even said on the radios, he goes, guys, this first one, it looks really scary, but it's not. He goes, there's two routes. There's a left and a right. The left looks easier, but it's not. That's the hard way. All the guys that know what they're doing can do that one. The right side looks super scary because it's basically it's two very steep climbs.
Dude,
on
looks
rock.
vertical coming up on it.
It does look vertical.
Looked vertical in the GoPro footage that I saw afterwards. It looked vertical from looking down from it.
Yeah, it's way super steep, right? And so we're obviously concerned because Kate's really top heavy with the tent up there. And so, you know, I was like, when I first saw it, I jumped out. I ran up to get pictures of all the other rigs, and I was like, whoa, this is kind of gnarly. So I had already seen like 20 people do it, and Ollie gets up there. Dusty walks down. You guys have a kind of a chat, right?
Yeah, we had a little heart to heart. He basically, you know, he's all right, you're going to keep it in first gear. I'm going to point you in the right direction. We're going to line her up, and then just, you know, smooth on the throttle. And I'm like, okay, let's do this. And so it started.
Yeah, and so it started, and you know what? It was instantly different. Like, he came through it, and Jeep was doing the work.
Well, it stalled a couple times.
Yeah, it stalled, but you know, it was, but you can tell that the advice he gave you was the right advice, because even though it stalled, like, it wasn't as jumpy and bumpy as it was in previous climbs that were way easier.
I mean, so I don't know if any of you, like, you know, that listen to us crawl, but if you do, you already know what I'm kind of talking about. But if you don't, you start in slow, and then you get to a point where you're kind of like seeing sky. You're seeing like the upper part of the ground, and you're seeing sky, and you're seeing hands.
That's all you see is hands over your hood, like
either directing you forward or directing you to the driver. They'll say driver, passenger, and that means driver's side or passenger side, left or right.
Right.
But instead of saying left and right, which I think they've kind of ascertained throughout the years, decades
your left,
of this,
my right.
Yeah, it becomes very confusing. So they say driver, passenger, and it's funny because the first time they told me driver, I was looking at the guy who was driving earlier, and I'm like, okay, towards him, which was passenger,
which is hilarious because
you started driver.
Yeah, it was hilarious because you immediately started going passenger. Everyone's like, no,
me. He's talking about me.
Right, you're the driver.
If you hear driver, it's towards you. If you're driving, if you hear passenger, it's towards your passenger. And anyway, so I go up, and when you have a little bit of momentum, you feel like you're in control. Like the vehicle's moving forward, you're not flipping, you're just going in a direction, and it feels comfortable. What happened to me was I started getting up, and then I kind of lost the throttle control. I started focusing just on the gear, and she stalled.
Yep.
And when you stall, it is the for me at least so far, one of the freakiest things.
Oh, it's scary because you're losing
next
power.
To that bounce.
And it wants to run. It wants to roll back because there's no power pushing it forward anymore.
Just everything feels wrong. Like,
and it's like you're stuck, right? Because imagine if you were falling and then you caught yourself with your hands and you were stuck.
That's how it feels. It feels like you know you were climbing and you know you had just gone that way.
Right.
But the fact that like the rope snapped and you started to fall, and even though you caught yourself, it's still scary as shit.
Right. And so, I'm glad to say that you overcame it. You went up it.
Yeah.
And
I
ran over.
Kept my shit cool. I started her up. It was weird. She didn't want to start on the incline at first. She was kind of like turning over a bunch of times. I was like, oh man, it's like, what's going on here? It's something pulling the wrong way. But she fired up finally, and I got on the way. And that last main hump on that first gatekeeper, like I said, you just see the hands only, and there was no ground and nothing, and I'm not looking to my left or right. I am freaking laser focused on these hands above my hood,
right?
That I could see past my hood. And I remember when I did Overland Expo West last year, there's this super talented female recovery expert. I forget her name. I want to say Tina, but she was doing drives for BF Goodrich, and they were showing people like the new KM3s I think that were coming out, and taking people through this trail.
This obstacle course.
Yeah, the obstacle course does like this trail that they kind of built out in the middle of Overland Expo. Anyways, so she told me, hey, you're seeing sky, and I started to turn my wheel to the right because the Jeep hood kind of goes to the right, like it kind of it cones in, and so you feel like straight is to the right.
Right.
And so when you see sky, you lose your bearing on where straight is.
Yeah, you lose your horizon.
And you don't know where you're at. So your instinct is to go left or right. Well, I remembered her saying that, so I just stopped myself from wanting to instinctually go to the right. I saw these hands, I focused on those, and we got through it.
Yeah, it was pretty good. And
there was like cheers.
Yeah, there was hooting and hollering, and everyone. And I ran over.
That was right.
There was, dude, your face was like noticeably. You were sweating, right? And
dude, my entire back was a furnace.
Yeah, and so I took a picture. I have a really cool picture of Ollie after he did it, and the look on his face actually does capture the moment pretty well. It was pretty awesome. It's actually one of my favorite pictures from that event. It was pretty rad. But the confidence level, like, oh my gosh, we were high-fiving. Yeah. It was like the confidence level right in that moment. The
stoke was high, my friend.
Oh, it was high. It was rad. And at that point, we felt pretty capable. And I felt like, all right, this is what he needed. He needed that confidence booster so that he can like really start attacking some of these things and get past the jitters.
Right. And I don't think the jitters ever left, honestly. It was always this feeling of like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then you do it and you're like, yeah, that's right. That trail was my B. But yeah, so got through that. High fives. People were like, we were stoked. And then we got on trail with everybody. And that was like the hardest thing I think we did up to dinner.
Yeah, because the rest of the trail was just kind of sightseeing.
There were some major ledges, but by that point,
drops. There was like really steep kind of nosedive steps. But again, that's not a big deal as long as you come at them straight. It was really kind of easy. It was more about the clearance of the vehicle. Right. It really wasn't about a technical challenge. So yeah, from there we just kind of meandered through these trails, did a couple of obstacles. We went to a really rad tunnel.
Yeah, so it was like a natural geological feature where it formed like a triangle. Like this tunnel, it wasn't like a traditional like round tunnel, but it was like this, almost as if the two mountains kind of collided together.
They kind of fell together, and they just kind of made this diamond that was maybe like 7 feet tall, and in some points actually lower. And you just you would walk through it, and then when you came out the other end, I mean, it was pretty long. It was like a football field with length. It was pretty long. When you came out the other end, it opened up into this gigantic valley, and it was just surrounded by these big like red walls. It was like being in like this mega amphitheater. It was and to boot, you were halfway up it. Like it was like not you.
You weren't like looking up at it.
Yeah, you were just in it, like coming out of a doorway onto a ledge.
Kind of where we're at here, like just looking across the way.
Yeah, it was so gorgeous.
Crazy canyons.
And so we took some pictures. We took a big group photo right, of everyone that was there. So you guys will see that too.
And let me, you'll see that, if you do look at the photos and you go on any kind of social and look up Moab, you'll see amazing photography. But just the rock here is this orange rust, red,
stunning.
This red rock, it's
just stunning.
Something else.
This place is just pure magic. That's all I gotta say.
My Jeep got a little covered in some of this red rock, and the floor mats have red on them. And it's I don't want to clean it out.
And it's so just bright red too. It's
so cool.
Practically glowing red.
Yeah.
So yeah, we did that. We then we kind of made our way back to. They had this kind of pseudo camp set up where it was basically dinner.
Yeah, they had the Sexton Racing trailer out there, and
another catered dinner catered meal.
A friend of theirs is a chef. A friend of Dusty's is a chef, and basically agreed to help out with cooking ribs and steaks and chicken for everybody.
But this is how you knew that they knew what they were doing, and it was next level, because they had a huge tent set up. So immediately you knew that you were going to be out of the wind, and you were going to be able to sit down and actually enjoy your meal.
Because by this time it started to drizzle.
It started to drizzle. The wind was kicking up.
Massive,
and and so
I guess eventually at one point it actually took down one of the steaks.
It took down one of the steaks, but they were quickly on it, and it was really. I mean, these guys are pros.
That's what they do, man. They go racing in the desert. They go racing out in places like this. They have to set up these kind of camps.
So I mean, amazing dinner. We had some great conversations over dinner. We had seconds. They had chicken, meat,
dude,
the
beef,
the potato salad was.
I've been on
incredible.
a paleo diet, and I broke my diet for this trip, but I'm not mad about it because the food here in Moab has been amazing.
Oh, it's been stupid. Yeah, it's just been
between
so good.
the Moab Garage Place, and they're not giving us money to say this. It's just really good.
It's just really good.
And I'm sure there's plenty of really great places here, but we just got lucky with this spot.
Right.
And then the catering from the Warren event, and as well as the catered.
That was Sunset Grill, also really good.
Yeah, but I will say, I think my favorite meal in a while has been what Sexton did for us.
Yeah, that was so good.
Yeah, so the slaw, the
slaw, everything.
The potato salad with the bacon.
We're now going to turn this into a foodie podcast.
Well, my wife always makes fun of me because she listens to these podcasts. She goes, "You guys talk about food a lot." I'm like, "Yeah, it's one of the best parts of overlanding and being outdoors and being with your friends and eat good, drink good,
right.
Have some adventures, have some fun. If you're not doing that, I don't know, man. You're not having a good time,
right?
In my opinion." Yeah. So food.
Yeah. So we do that. Now it's obviously dark. It's pitch dark. It's like 8:30 or 9. It's pretty late.
No, it was past 9 because I think
it was 10.
By the time we got back on trail, it was 10 o'clock.
It was 10 o'clock.
I had another conversation where I went up to Dusty and Neil.
So we talked about this, and you were like, "I don't know if I should."
You told me that Sexton in confidence, or Dusty in confidence, went up to you and said, "Don't tell him." But it gets harder for me.
Right. He told me, he said, after he had done the first gatekeeper, he said, don't tell him this. But the rest. I
love that he said that because it means he still wanted me to be there.
Yeah.
Or else he would have said, tell him, let him make a choice.
Right. He goes, but the rest are harder. He goes, but don't worry, we'll hook him up to the winch and we'll get him up. And I was like, all right, I won't tell him then. So I didn't up until the moment where Ollie kind of had this look in his eyes where he wanted to quit. And I said, I had kind of
so
felt
much quit. It was just, let's weigh the options.
Well, and it was again going back to the first statement, right, where you didn't want to be a burden on the group and you didn't want to be the guy holding him back. And so you were more kind of trying to be considerate of their time and the fact that it was
100%.
late and running the trail at 10 o'clock at night. And
it was dark, and then that rain started to concern me because I'm like,
coming down.
Not only am I brand new to this, not only am I going to go crawling with these experts and pros, but now I'm going to do it in the rain of all.
But it wasn't dumping rain; it was like a light,
it was drizzling,
rain.
Yeah.
And so I told
enough
him,
to get the rock wet.
Yeah, and so I said, "No, dude, you're looking at this wrong." I go, first of all, these guys are pros, and they're not going to put you in a bad situation. Everyone's here to have a good time. Everyone is super supportive. Yep. Everyone wants to see you succeed. That bird almost hit me in the face. Did you see that?
No.
Oh my gosh. He came straight at this bush, came within like a foot and a half of my face.
These little sparrows are like lightning fast. They're like little MiGs.
That freaked me out. I thought I was about to die.
Yeah.
I was about to get a concussion from a bird.
One thing I will say is my kind of thought on this whole thing was similar to what the Warren, Andy from Warren said when he was talking about hey, if you get in a bad spot and you've got 30 people behind you and they're all pissed off or they're honking their horns and they want you to go, he's like, don't. He's all, do what the Camel Trophy guys did.
Right.
He's all, the Camel Trophy guys would get to an obstacle and they've got people behind them and everything, but they would get to an obstacle that was either sketchy or they'd break down or whatever it was. They'd have to winch somebody out. They'd say, put the kettle on.
Yep. Put the T on.
Put the T on, because we're gonna be here for a minute. We're gonna figure this out. We're gonna ascertain, assess all that. So really, I mean, I'm thinking to myself, Dusty probably knew that Neil had invited me. That was made clear. So I was like a guest of Neil's. I was part of the group to like take pictures. I'm thinking maybe he doesn't want to tell me not to go.
Right.
Maybe he's feeling like, you kind of keep him around. So I wanted him to have every opportunity to say, you know what, you did good.
Right.
But we're going to go on from here. It's going to be kind of hairy. No, he's like, it's your choice, but we can get you through whatever you face. And when I saw that in the confidence, and I gave him his full out, I'm like, and then Neil, and you see Neil, and dude, let me tell you about Neil. Neil's been in the game for a minute, and he has the same enthusiasm and just joy for this that I think he had when he first started. And he goes, Ali, I felt the same way as you do when I first started, and I just got over it, and it's what made me better. And I'm like, oh, what, when you were 16? Because we're talking about a director at Yukon Gear and Axle. He goes, no, man, like a year ago when he really started doing it for himself. And I was like, whoa, okay, because he's got a huge background in all this, but with the real crawling, and you could tell because he got through everything.
Yep.
Neil was able to motor through all the stuff.
Right.
But and when he told me that, and the confidence that he had, and the joy he seemed to have for me just even being there and part of like his adventure.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I'm in. Let's.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
That was it. That was done. Let's do it. Whatever comes.
Yeah.
And boy, did it come.
Yeah. So at that point, you had a conversation with Neil. Neil sold you on going. I said he was 100% right. Let's do it. What comes next is intense and awesome. So we're at about an hour 10.
No way. That flew by.
So for your sake, and your commute, because I know most of you like listening to about an hour, based on your feedback, we're gonna do this. We're gonna pay some bills real quick, and then we're gonna jump into this in part 2. Yep.
So I'd say let's first start out with the reasons why we're here.
Yeah.
We faced a lot of darkness, but we came out through it, just like KC will pull you through it.
That's right.
They are the light in the dark. They are our homeboys. We love KC, not just because of the parts, but just because we tend to have an amazing time.
We do.
Every time we do anything with them. Actually, whenever the guys that they support get together, so not even with the KC guys, but like when I hang out with Marco or Brad, I mean, we just,
or Adam, everyone,
we just never have a bad time.
It's just always fun.
Yeah. So we actually hung out today with Dr. Deathwobble. And
which I love that name, dude.
Yeah.
That's so rad.
And Ken, and dude, awesome dude, KC guy.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking shit on anybody else, but like, just have not had a bad time yet.
No, I haven't had a bad time. So props to them. And again, I can't say thank you enough for the fact that for what they've done to support us and getting us out here,
and for how good their parts performed on,
and how
on the
good
rig. And
exactly.
Just, the lights there when I need it. I've got like floodlights all the way around my rack, and I've got their G34 ditch lights, which are insanely bright. I've got their gravity fogs. I've got their headlights. I've got their light bar. I mean,
we're running a lot of KC.
I'm a moon landing, with this rig wherever I go. There is no darkness.
So, reason number 2 that we're here.
Actually, first and foremost, 511 Tactical is the reason why I'm here. Let me just put that out there. Thanks to my company for humoring me in this passion that I've developed for off-road and overland, and for backing me and getting into it themselves. And we've already been in it, but they're seeing the light, and we are charging full speed ahead. Especially with Overland Expo West coming up, we'll have a booth out there. We've got these amazing pants that the design team have been making, the Quest pants that you've been wearing all week, designed specifically for these types of adventures and this type of lifestyle. So I love how 511 has taken somebody from within and listened to them and kind of realized that there's a path and direction, and it makes sense because
totally.
Overlanding off-road, it's all about being prepared.
It really is.
Like, even Warren's tagline is "Go prepared."
Right.
Like, this is the lifestyle of people who do not want to be in a bad position, and if they find themselves to be in one,
you want to be
will
prepared.
Learn either how to drive out of it, or how to winch themselves out of it, or however recover themselves. So, that's what I think I really love about off-roading.
Yep.
and the Overland community also, in two different ways, is just the preparedness that comes with it. So,
and the fact that no matter who you're with, they got your back.
Yeah. So whatever you need, speaking of backs, you need a backpack, pants. Dude, I don't think you'll ever find a better pair of pants. But I'm biased. I'm biased, but I also believe that they're just freaking amazing. So 511 Tactical is the reason why I'm here. They let me come. And then the third reason,
third reason that we're here.
The third and one of the most valuable is Yukon Gear and Axle, not only for giving us one of the most amazing times I've ever had in an off-road situation, but for also providing my travel and gears that held up to all the abuse and the poor shifting and the horrible throttle control that I
those gears were talking a lot this weekend. Man, they were mostly screaming back at Ali.
Yep.
But they were talking.
But I figured it out. By the end of it, we became friends. And I got that Torque oil in there, so it's like keeping everything nice and lubricated. Sorry, that was a bad plug, but it is nonetheless a plug for a company that I love and has been with me for decades with other projects. But yeah, the gears held up, and yeah, man.
All right. And last but not least, the sponsors that have been with us from the beginning,
right?
Rig Supply. Huge thanks to them for always supporting us from the start and believing in this podcast and making all of it possible. They, you visit their website. We've talked about their swing out. We've talked about their hitch extension.
Yep.
Both products that are completely awesome and full of kickassery.
Yep, and we've also talked about the fact that they can outfit you with all kinds of other stuff
exactly, not just those two
They're
products.
more of an outfitter, honestly. And
yeah, they
really
happen to
have some really good products for specific applications as
They
well.
just happen to have some good ideas that they've built themselves on top of what they already sell. So, huge props to them. Check them out, rigdsupply.com.
Dude, and if you don't follow Taco Dust, he is working on a monster right now.
You really need to. That thing is a beast. That dude is just a manimal. That's all I gotta say.
Well, he's got that crazy Tacoma, and then of course you have Luke's Forerunner that he's building up for rigged as well.
Yep.
And just two really well thought out, awesome rigs, and you're gonna see them at Overland Expo West.
Yep.
So look for them. Look for their booth. I think they're gonna have a booth this year.
Yep.
And should be some really good stuff.
So on that note, thanks for listening.
Charity. Sorry, real quick, your charity.
Oh, right. So because we're recording this podcast on the heels of the last one, I still don't know what's going on with Gear Forward.
Yeah, sorry.
Because it's literally only been a couple of days.
But it's still a good charity, and I think they should be spoken about.
You should definitely be...
they're vetted, at least.
Yeah, they need to be on your radar. Gear Forward supplies used, unwanted gear, or even new gear if you're feeling generous, to underprivileged children and making sure that they can get out there and experience the outdoors.
Do it for the children.
Do it for the children. So on that note, thanks for listening to part one.
This is our first part part two.
Yeah, of us out here at Easter Jeep Safari in Moab. Obviously check us out.
Dude, we're in Moab.
Check us out at rigforddirt.com, on Instagram at rigfordirt. You can find Ollie at
Kate the Jeep.
You can find me at Truckee McTruckface. And we will see you for part two.
Good night, guys.
Good night.